Commander Stephen Wright stood frozen on the bridge of his ship as he watched the colony on Proxima Centauri 4 burn. The massive alien vessels hovered above the human settlement, their weapons turning buildings into ash. His communications officer had the channel open. They could hear the screams. Stephen gripped the edge of the console so hard his knuckles turned white. 3 million people lived on that colony. His sister was one of them. "Sir, we're being hailed," said Lieutenant Frank. "Alan," his voice shaking, "it's the alien flagship." Stephen nodded, his face a mask. "On screen?" The alien that appeared looked almost like a tall, thin human, but with blue-tinted skin and eyes too large for its face. "This is Supreme Counselor Zix Star of the Galactic Hegemony. Your dangerous colony has been neutralized. This is a containment." "Action? Containment?" Stephen's voice was barely controlled. "You just murdered millions of innocent people." The alien's expression didn't change. "You are Deathworlders. Your kind evolved on a planet that should not support intelligent life. Your biology is too resilient, your instincts too aggressive. The hegemony has observed many species like yours. Left unchecked, you become a threat to all civilized worlds." Stephen received an urgent message from Earth Command. The aliens had attacked without warning or provocation. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. In that time, they had built 12 colonies across 7 star systems. This was their first contact with an alien civilization. 6 weeks later, Stephen escorted Earth's diplomatic team to the neutral meeting ground selected by the hegemony. The human negotiators, Amelia Porter and Daniel Carter, were the best Earth had to offer. They brought scientific data about Earth, human history, and cultural information. "We understand your concerns," Amelia said to the hegemony representatives. "Earth is classified as a death world by your standards. Its gravity is higher than most life-bearing planets. Our weather is extreme. We have thousands of naturally occurring poisons and predators. But these conditions shaped us into adaptable beings, not violent ones." Daniel added, "Our history contains violence, yes, but also great compassion and art. We seek peaceful cooperation with your hegemony." The aliens seemed to listen. Supreme Counselor Zix even nodded at several points. The negotiations continued for 3 days. On the 4th morning, Stephen was woken by alarms. "Sir," Frank's voice came through the speaker, panic evident. "The hegemony fleet just jumped out of the system. We're getting distress calls from 3 more colonies. They're under attack." By the time Stephen's ship reached the Mars outpost, it was too late. The defense vessel Defiance drifted in space, heavily damaged. Stephen ordered immediate rescue operations. They found only one survivor, Captain Olivia Ross. They came without warning, she told Stephen in the medical bay, her face burned and one arm missing below the elbow. Said it was preventative measures against the Deathworlder threat. We had no chance. The death toll reached 18 million across the 3 colonies. While Stephen's ship raced back to Earth, a message arrived from the hegemony. The remaining human colonies were given an ultimatum: surrender to hegemony rule or face extinction. Earth's President Natalie Graham addressed the planet and colonies on a secure channel. Her normally confident face looked haggard. "The Galactic Hegemony has made their position clear. They fear what we might become, not what we are. They struck without provocation, murdered our people, and now demand our surrender." Stephen watched the broadcast from his ship as they approached Earth. Orbit. Beside him stood Olivia, fresh from surgery, her new prosthetic arm still being calibrated. "They fear us because they don't understand us," Olivia said quietly. Stephen nodded. "They see our ability to survive as a threat." President Graham's voice grew stronger. "Humanity will not bow to those who murder innocents out of fear. We did not seek this conflict, but we will defend ourselves. As of this moment, we are at war with the Galactic Hegemony." Stephen was summoned to a high-level meeting at Earth Command. Military leaders and scientists gathered around a large table. Admiral Joe Baker, head of the Earth Confederation, Navy, looked grim. "Our intelligence suggests the hegemony includes over 30 spacefaring species," he said. Their technology exceeds ours by at least a century. Their ships outnumber ours. 50-1. Then why do they fear us? Asked Stephen. Dr. Linda Wilson, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stood up. Because we're different. Most intelligent life evolves on garden worlds with mild conditions and few threats. Their bodies are fragile compared to ours. Their minds evolved for cooperation, not competition. They've never seen a species like us before. Can we negotiate peace? Asked General Peter Davis. Stephen thought of the burning colony, of Olivia's missing arm, of his sister who would never come home. They never intended peace. The negotiations were a delay tactic while they positioned their fleets. Olivia spoke, up from her seat at the end of the table. They called us Deathworlders like it was a slur. But they don't understand what that really means. What does it mean? Asked President Graham, who had been listening silently. Olivia looked at her, knew a mechanical hand as she made a fist. It means we learn to survive in conditions that would kill them. It means we don't give up. It means they made a terrible mistake. Over the next week, humanity prepared for war. Stephen was given command of a small fleet of Earth's best ships. Their mission was to protect the outer colonies while Earth built up its defenses. The night before he left, Stephen visited the memorial wall where names of the dead were being projected. He found his sister's name among millions of others. A hand touched his shoulder. He turned to see Olivia. We'll make them regret underestimating. U.S., she said. Stephen nodded, feeling something cold settle in his chest. They think we're dangerous because we come from a harsh world. They have no idea what we're capable of when pushed. As his ships prepared to depart the next morning, Stephen addressed his crew. The hegemony calls us Deathworlders because our planet forged us in adversity. They attacked us because they fear what we might become. Today we show them they were right to be afraid. His ships jumped to light speed, heading toward the front lines of a war humanity never wanted but would not shy away from. The day the Deathworlders were pushed too far had come. Mercy had ended. Retribution had begun. 6 months passed since the first attacks. The war was not going well for humanity. Despite their courage and determination, humans were outmatched by the hegemony's advanced technology. 3 more colonies had fallen. Earth's defenses were holding, but weakening with each assault. Commander Stephen Wright's fleet had been reduced to half its original size. They fought bravely but were often forced to retreat. In his quarters aboard the flagship, Stephen studied battle reports with tired eyes. The door chimed and Olivia Ross entered, her prosthetic arm now seamlessly integrated with her movements. New orders from Earth Command, she said, handing him a data pad. We're to fall back to the Jupiter defense line. Stephen sighed. Another retreat. Any good news? Olivia's face showed a hint of hope. Actually, yes. A civilian engineer found something on Europa. Something that might help us. William Foster had not planned to be a hero. Before the war, he designed water recycling systems for the colonies. His wife and daughter had died in the attack on Mars. Now he spent his days helping the military however he could. He had been inspecting ice drilling equipment on Europa when he discovered the ruins. They were alien, but not hegemony, much older. Hidden deep beneath the ice moon's surface. No one knew who built them or when, but they contained technology beyond anything humans had seen before. William recognized weapon systems, defense shields, and propulsion designs that could help turn the tide of war. The ruins appeared to be at least 50,000 years old, said Dr. Alan Morris, the lead scientist examining William's discovery. Whoever built them was far more advanced than the hegemony. President Graham authorized immediate research. If we can adapt this technology, we might stand a chance. While scientists worked on Europa, Major Richard Hudson led resistance fighters on New Terra, now occupied by hegemony forces. The aliens struggled with the planet's heavy gravity and dense atmosphere. Humans, however, moved freely despite these harsh conditions. Richard's fighters used this advantage to sabotage enemy positions and gather intelligence. Richard crouched in a drainage tunnel beneath a hegemony command post. The air was thick with sulfur compounds that would kill the aliens without their breathing masks. Richard had been breathing this air for weeks. His lungs had adapted. Another Deathworlder trait the enemy didn't understand. Their patrol schedule. Changed again, whispered Karen Mills, his second in command. They're rotating troops every 4 hours instead of 6? Richard nodded. They're getting tired faster than before. Their bodies aren't built for this gravity. The resistance struck that night, destroying the command post's communications array. By the time hegemony reinforcements arrived, Richard's fighters had vanished into the toxic swamps where the aliens couldn't follow. Back on Earth, news arrived that changed everything. A human science vessel, the Curiosity, had been captured by the hegemony 3 weeks earlier. Its crew of 30 scientists and engineers had been taken to a research facility. Now, a transmission from that facility reached Earth Command. Dr. Catherine Sullivan, the Curiosity's lead scientist, had managed to hack into the facility's communication system. The video she sent showed horrors no one was prepared for. The hegemony scientists were conducting experiments on the captured humans, live dissections, stress tests to measure human endurance, trials to determine how much radiation, poison, and pain humans could endure before dying. Catherine's face appeared on screen, gaunt and bruised. They're trying to understand what makes us Deathworlders, she whispered. They can't comprehend how our bodies work, how we adapt. I'm sending all their research data, use it against them. Her eyes looked up. They're coming. Remember us. Make them pay. The transmission cut off as hegemony guards entered the room. Later reports confirmed all prisoners had been executed after the transmission. Stephen Wright watched the footage on his ship alongside his senior officers. No one spoke for several minutes. The cold feeling in Stephen's chest that had been growing since the first attack now crystallized into something hard and clear. Send this to all ships, he ordered finally. Everyone needs to see what we're fighting. Olivia looked at him. Are you sure? Yes, Stephen cut her off. Every human needs to understand what the hegemony really thinks of us, what they do to us when they capture us. The footage spread across human forces. Something fundamental changed in the war effort. The desperate defense of the previous months transformed into something more focused, more determined. On Europa, William Foster worked with military engineers to adapt the ancient technology. These weapons were designed to target specific biological weaknesses, he explained to Admiral Baker. We can modify them to affect hegemony physiology. The first prototype weapons were ready within weeks. When hegemony forces attacked the Jupiter defense line, they faced something new. The human ships fought differently. Their weapons bypassed alien shields. Their tactics became unpredictable. On New Terra, Richard Hudson's resistance fighters captured a hegemony field commander. The alien was shocked to be taken alive. Why not kill me? It asked Richard. Because we need information, Richard replied. And because we're not like you. The captured commander revealed valuable intelligence. The hegemony leadership was concerned. Human resistance was stronger than their models predicted. The Deathworlders were adapting to hegemony tactics faster than thought possible. President Graham met with her military advisors. Catherine Sullivan's sacrifice gave us an edge. The hegemony research data shows they fundamentally misunderstand us. They see our adaptability as a threat but don't truly comprehend it. Stephen's fleet successfully defended the Jupiter line, forcing the hegemony to retreat for the first time in the war. As enemy ships fled, Stephen stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display. We have their course, said Frank Allen. We could pursue. 6 months ago, Stephen would have ordered his ships to hold position, to secure their defensive line. But Catherine Sullivan's face was fresh in his mind. His sister's name on the memorial wall of his missing arm. All ships prepare to jump, he ordered. We're going after them. Frank looked surprised. Sir? Stephen's expression was calm, but his eyes burned with a new intensity. We've been on the defensive long enough. It's time we showed the hegemony what happens when you push Deathworlders too far. As his ships jumped into pursuit, a message went. out to all human forces. It contained only a few words, but it spread rapidly, becoming the unofficial motto of humanity's new approach to the war. We tried reason. We tried mercy. Today that ends. The human military changed its approach to the war. They stopped trying to fight like the hegemony and started fighting like humans. Special Forces Commander Patricia Miller developed new combat tactics that used human endurance and pain tolerance as advantages. Her soldiers trained to operate in conditions that would kill hegemony troops. They practiced fighting while injured, while exhausted, while hungry. They turned their Deathworlder traits into weapons. The enemy thinks our ability to survive. Harsh conditions makes us dangerous, Patricia told her troops. Let's show them how right they are. On Europa, William Foster worked day and night with the ancient technology. He barely slept or ate. His grief for his lost family drove him forward. The weapons he helped design targeted specific weaknesses in hegemony biology. Their ships had powerful shields against energy weapons, but the new human weapons bypassed these defenses. They affected the aliens on a cellular level. "Are you sure this is ethical?" asked one of the scientists working with William. William looked up from his work, his eyes hard. "Was it ethical when they experimented on our people? When they killed my wife and daughter without warning?" The scientist had no answer. Lieutenant Ryan Kelly led a small strike team on a mission to infiltrate a hegemony research facility. The facility orbited a gas giant in a system recently taken by the aliens. Ryan's team used a captured hegemony shuttle to approach undetected. They wore special suits designed to mask their life signs. The 6 humans moved through the facility. "Like ghosts?" "Security room ahead," whispered Sam Garcia, the team's tech specialist. 2 guards. Ryan nodded and raised his hand, showing 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. The team struck silently. The hegemony guards were unconscious before they could sound an alarm. "Get me into their systems," Ryan ordered. Sam worked quickly at the alien console. "I'm in. They've got all kinds of research data here. It looks like they've been running simulations on human resistance." "Download everything," Ryan said. "What kind of simulations?" Sam's eyes widened as he read the data. "Sir, they predicted human extinction within 1 year of the start of the war. But their models didn't account for our adaptability under pressure. They can't understand why we're still fighting." The team completed their mission, escaping with valuable intelligence on hegemony fleet movements and weaknesses. But Ryan made sure they left something behind. A message burned into the facility's main computer screen. "You should have left us alone." On Earth, President Graham met with her War Council. The room was tense, but there was a new energy present. For the first time since the war began, humanity had scored real victories. "The hegemony is falling back on multiple fronts," reported Admiral Baker. "Commander Wright's fleet has destroyed 3 of their supply bases. Major Hudson's resistance fighters have liberated 2 cities on New Terra." "And the new weapons?" asked President Graham. "Effective beyond our expectations," replied General Davis. "The enemy doesn't understand how we're bypassing their shields. They can't adapt fast enough." President Graham stood up and walked to the window. Below, she could see workers rebuilding parts of the city damaged in recent attacks. "I'm authorizing Operation Reckoning," she said. "We abandon conventional warfare restrictions. We use everything we have." Some council members looked uncomfortable. "Madam President," one began, "there are rules of war that—" "The hegemony broke those rules when they attacked without provocation," she interrupted. "They broke them again when they experimented on our people. We tried to be civilized. We tried diplomacy. Now we show them what Deathworlders are truly capable of." The Jupiter colonies were the next hegemony target. They gathered a massive fleet, confident they could overwhelm the human defenses. They did not expect the changes in human tactics. Human soldiers fought beyond normal endurance thresholds. They used guerrilla tactics that confused the hegemony's rigid battle doctrines. The new weapons caused panic among alien troops who couldn't understand how they were being hurt through their protective gear. For the first time since the war began, the hegemony fleet retreated in disarray. On his ship, Commander Stephen Wright received news of the victory. The enemy is falling back. Across all sectors, reported Frank Allen, unable to hide his excitement. Casualties? Asked Stephen. Heavy on both sides, sir. But we held the line. Olivia Ross entered the bridge, her face showing rare satisfaction. Earth Command just sent new orders. We're to take the fight to them now. All forces are switching to offensive operations. Stephen nodded, his expression calm but determined. Send word to all ships. We move on the hegemony outpost at Proxima Centauri. It's time we took back what's ours. The human counterattack began across all fronts. Richard Hudson's resistance fighters on New Terra linked up with special forces dropped from orbit. Together, they liberated the main colony in just 3 days. Hegemony troops were shocked by humans who could fight in toxic atmospheres without protection, who could continue fighting despite injuries that would incapacitate the aliens. Dr. Eric Bennett, who had worked closely with Catherine Sullivan before her capture and death, developed the next generation of weapons based on her research. They specifically targeted hegemony biology. The ethical debate among human leadership was fierce but brief. The memory of millions dead and the footage of experimentation on human prisoners settled the question. Catherine would have wanted us to use her research to end this war, Eric told the Science Council, to save human lives. In space, the hegemony discovered that humans had modified their ships in ways they couldn't counter. Human vessels now operated with minimal life support, diverting that power to weapons and engines. Human pilots endured G-forces that would kill hegemony crews. They executed maneuvers the aliens considered impossible. Supreme Counselor ZX Star received increasingly disturbing reports from the front lines. The Deathworlders are fighting differently, one commander reported. They've embraced what we feared about them. They're using their savage nature against us. A hegemony science vessel captured in battle revealed another troubling discovery. Humans were learning the aliens' technology at an alarming rate. They were adapting it, improving it in some cases. Evolution on a harsh planet had given humans not just physical resilience but mental adaptability the hegemony had never encountered before. Zextar convened an emergency session of the Hegemony High Council. We must increase our efforts to contain the human threat, he insisted. Use our most powerful weapons if necessary. But not all council members agreed. Some had begun to question. The war. We attacked them without provocation, said one council member. Perhaps we should open diplomatic channels again. Zextar's eyes flashed with anger. It is too late for diplomacy. The Deathworlders have shown their true nature. If we do not destroy them now, they will eventually destroy us. As the hegemony leadership argued, human forces continued to advance. For the first time since the conflict began, humanity had hope. The Deathworlders had been pushed too far, and now the galaxy was learning exactly what that meant. 1 year into the war, humanity had transformed its approach to fighting. Commander Stephen Wright, now promoted to admiral, led a fleet of ships that barely resembled their original designs. Engineers had stripped away comfort systems, rerouted power from life support to weapons, and installed the technology William Foster had discovered. Human crews lived in conditions the hegemony considered unsurvivable, giving their ships advantages in speed and firepower. Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of his flagship as they approached Proxima Centauri, the site of the first hegemony attack. The planet below had once been home to 3 million humans. Now it was a hegemony military base. All ships report. Ready, sir? Said Frank Allen, now a commander himself. Begin the attack, ordered Wright. Follow the plan exactly. Human ships dropped out of lightspeed in a pattern the hegemony had never seen before. Instead of a coordinated formation, they appeared at seemingly random points around the planet. The hegemony defense fleet scrambled to respond, but they couldn't predict where the humans would strike. On New Terra, Major Richard Hudson led the final push to reclaim the planet. His troops moved through toxic swamps and across high gravity, plains that hegemony soldiers couldn't traverse without mechanical assistance. Richard had been fighting on this world for so long that the harsh conditions felt normal to him now. His body had adapted in ways that shocked even human doctors. "Their main base is just beyond that ridge," Richard told his officers. They crouched in a cave filled with sulfur gases that would kill an unprotected alien in minutes. The humans breathed it with only minimal filtration. "They have heavy weapons covering all standard approaches. So we don't use standard approaches," said Karen Mills, smiling grimly. She pointed to a map. "We go through the lava tubes." The tunnels ran beneath the ridge, filled with toxic gases and extreme heat. No hegemony commander would expect an attack through such hostile terrain. But then, no hegemony commander truly understood what it meant to be a Deathworlder. Richard nodded. "We move in 1 hour." On Earth, Dr. Eric Bennett worked with William Foster to develop the next generation of weapons based on Catherine Sullivan's research. They had found ways to specifically target the hegemony species at a biological level. The weapons wouldn't harm humans but were devastating to the aliens. "The delivery system is ready," Eric told President Graham in a secure briefing. "We can deploy it to all frontline units immediately." President Graham looked at the technical specs with a grave expression. "This will kill thousands of enemy troops." "Millions of our people are already dead," William said quietly. "This ends the war faster." After a long moment, Graham nodded. "Deploy it." As human forces pushed forward on all fronts, the hegemony began to fracture from within. Some member species questioned the war. Intelligence reports reached Supreme Counselor ZX-Star that several worlds were considering separate peace agreements with the humans. "Traitors," ZX-Star hissed at his inner council. "We fight for the survival of civilized space against the Deathworlder threat?" One of his advisors dared to speak up. "But the intelligence reports suggest the humans were peaceful before we attacked." "Then perhaps we misunderstood," ZX-Star cut him off. "They would have eventually turned on us, all Deathworlders do. The prophecy is clear." The mention of a prophecy caught the attention of Nicole Hayes, a human intelligence officer who had infiltrated the Hegemony Central Command. Disguised using advanced holographic technology, she had been gathering intelligence for months. This was the first mention of any prophecy driving the conflict. Nicole carefully accessed the restricted hegemony databases that night. What she found was shocking. The war had been started because of an ancient prediction that Deathworlders would eventually overthrow the established order. ZX-Star had orchestrated the first attacks based not on any actual human aggression, but on this prophecy and his own fear. She transmitted this information back to Earth using a hidden quantum communicator. The response was immediate. Several hegemony worlds, seeing humanity's unstoppable advance and now learning of ZX-Star's deception, opened diplomatic channels. Admiral Wright's fleet achieved victory at Proxima Centauri. The hegemony forces retreated, leaving behind their base and equipment. As Wright's ships secured orbit around the planet, his sensors officer reported a disturbing discovery. "Sir, we're detecting a large civilian population on the surface," the officer said. "The hegemony relocated some of their own people here." Wright faced a crucial decision. His orders were to reclaim the planet by any means necessary. The easiest approach would be orbital bombardment of all hegemony structures. But that would kill thousands of civilians who had nothing to do with the military decisions. Olivia Ross stood beside him, watching his face. "What are your orders, Admiral?" After a long moment, Wright turned to his weapons officer. "Target military installations only, precision strikes. No civilian casualties if it can be avoided." "Sir?" the officer questioned, surprised. "We'll show them the difference between U.S., Wright said firmly. "We could slaughter them all in revenge for what they did to our colony. Instead, we'll be selective in our retribution." The battle for Proxima Centauri ended with a human victory but minimal hegemony civilian casualties. News of this spread quickly through the alien coalition. More worlds began to question ZX-Star's leadership and the war itself. Richard Hudson's forces reclaimed New Terra completely. Standing in the former Hegemony Command Center, Richard found records of their frustration trying to adapt to the planet's conditions. They spent more resources on environmental systems than on weapons, he told his officers. They never understood that our greatest weapon is our adaptability. On Earth, President Graham addressed the planet and remaining colonies. 1 year ago we faced extinction. Today, we have reclaimed 2 of our lost worlds and pushed the enemy back on all fronts. We did this not because we are naturally violent, as they claimed, but because we are naturally adaptable. When pushed to our limits, we do not break. We evolve. The tide of war had turned. Hegemony forces were in retreat across multiple sectors. Several member species had opened secret peace talks with Earth. Supreme Counselor ZX grew increasingly desperate, ordering his loyal commanders to use ever more extreme measures. Admiral Wright received intelligence about these developments as his fleet prepared to strike another hegemony stronghold. They're getting desperate, he told his officers. That makes them dangerous. We need to be ready for anything. He had no idea how right he was. Zexstar had authorized the use of weapons previously forbidden by hegemony law. Weapons that could render entire planets uninhabitable. The Supreme Counselor was willing to sacrifice anything to stop the Deathworlders who threatened his prophecy. As human forces prepared for what they hoped would be the final phase of the war, no one realized that the worst was yet to come. The true test of humanity's resolve and mercy lay ahead. The final confrontation loomed as human forces pushed toward the hegemony capital world. Admiral Wright led the main fleet, now joined by ships from alien species that had defected from the hegemony. Intelligence Officer Nicole Hayes had escaped from her undercover mission with crucial information about ZX's plans. He has devices placed on 12 inhabited worlds, she reported to the War Council, including Earth. If he activates them, they will render the atmosphere's toxic to all life forms. President Graham's face hardened. How much time do we have? The devices are already in place, Nicole said. He'll trigger them if we attack the capital world. William Foster studied the technical data Nicole had stolen. I might be able to create a countermeasure, he said. But deploying it would require getting close to each device. Meaning 12 separate missions, Admiral Baker said, behind enemy lines. I'll lead the Earth mission myself, William said. His eyes were tired but determined. This is what the ancient technology I found was designed for, neutralizing exactly this kind of threat. Teams were assembled for each mission. William worked day and night to create the countermeasures. When they were ready, he explained the hard truth to Admiral Wright and President Graham. The devices have to be neutralized simultaneously, he said. And each neutralization requires someone to stay with the countermeasure. To manually override if anything goes wrong. A suicide mission, Wright said quietly. William nodded. For all 12 teams. President Graham looked at the volunteers who had stepped forward. We can't order anyone to do this. You don't have to, William replied. We all volunteered. Before the missions launched, William spoke privately with Admiral Wright. They thought we were monsters because of where we came from, he said. Show them what real monsters look like, then show them what humanity truly stands for. 12 small ships departed for their targets, each carrying a team led by someone who had lost everything to the hegemony. William Foster headed to Earth, where the hegemony had hidden their device in the ruins of what had once been Paris. Meanwhile, the main human fleet, along with their new allies, approached the hegemony capital world. The remaining loyal hegemony forces formed a defensive line that stretched across the entire system. It was the largest gathering of ships anyone had ever seen. Admiral Wright addressed the combined fleet. Today we end this war. But remember, our goal is not extermination. We are not what they claimed we were. We fight to defend, not to destroy. The battle began. Human ships, with their modified systems and crews adapted to harsh conditions, broke through the outer defensive line. Hegemony ships fought desperately, but many of their allies had already abandoned them. The forces loyal to ZX found themselves increasingly isolated. On Earth, William Foster reached the device hidden beneath the ruins of the Eiffel Tower. It was larger than he expected, a pulsing mass of alien technology connected to the planet's core. He set up his countermeasure and began the neutralization sequence. Similar scenes played out on 11 other worlds. Each team reached their target. Each began the process that would save billions of lives. And each knew they wouldn't survive the process. William watched the countdown on his equipment. 5 minutes until simultaneous neutralization. His mind went to his wife and daughter, killed in the first attacks. "This is for you," he whispered. His communicator activated. It was Admiral Wright, his voice tense amid the sounds of battle. "Foster, we've broken through to the capital. Zexstar is threatening to activate the devices early." William checked his equipment. "We need 3 more minutes. Keep him talking." In the hegemony capital, Supreme Counselor Zexstar faced the human advance from his command center. Screens showed human ships approaching from all directions, joined by vessels from species that had once been loyal hegemony members. "The prophecy cannot be wrong," he said to his few remaining advisors. "The Deathworlders must be stopped at any cost." His hand moved toward the activation control for the atmospheric devices. A blast rocked the command center as human forces breached the defenses. Marines in heavy combat armor stormed in, led by Olivia Ross. Her prosthetic arm had been upgraded with weapons specifically designed to fight the hegemony. "Step away from the control," she ordered Zexstar. The alien's large eyes narrowed. "You're too late, Deathworlder. Your kind was never meant to join civilized space." His hand pressed the activation button. Screens around the room showed the status of all 12 devices. Zexstar's face shifted from confidence to confusion as each device registered as non-functional. The synchronized countermeasures had worked. "Impossible," he whispered. Olivia stepped forward and placed restraints on the alien leader. "Apparently you underestimated us. Again." Across 12 worlds, the neutralization process completed. Each device was rendered harmless. And each human team made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure success. William Foster's last thoughts were of a future where humans and aliens might find peace. The war ended that day. Zexstar was captured alive along with the evidence of his deception. A public trial was broadcast across the galaxy. President Graham delivered humanity's verdict. "You called us Deathworlders as if it were a curse," she told Zexstar in the watching galaxy. "You failed to understand that our harsh world taught us not just how to survive, but when to fight and when to show mercy." The sentence surprised many. Zexstar would not be executed. Instead, he would live among humans on Earth, under guard but with freedom to learn about the species he had feared and hated. "You will see firsthand what we truly are," President Graham told him. A new galactic covenant was formed in the aftermath. Humanity was recognized not as a threat but as protectors. Their Deathworld adaptability became valued rather than feared. Admiral Wright, promoted to Fleet Admiral, oversaw the creation of a new peacekeeping force that included both humans and aliens. 5 years after the war's end, a memorial was built on Earth to honor those who had sacrificed themselves to save both humanity and the wider galaxy. Wright visited it often, reading the names carved in stone. His sister, Catherine Sullivan, William Foster, so many others. Olivia Ross found him there one evening. She had retired from military service and now taught at a new school where alien children and human children learned together. "Do you think they would approve of what we've built?" she asked, looking at the memorial. Wright nodded slowly. "We showed both faces of our nature. The capacity for terrible retribution, but also the wisdom to know when vengeance must end and rebuilding must begin." In her classroom the next day, Olivia explained to her students, human and alien, alike about adaptation and survival. About strength in all its forms. "The true strength of any species," she told them, "isn't just the ability to fight when threatened. It's knowing when to stop fighting, when to extend a hand instead of a fist." A young alien student raised its hand. "Teacher Ross, is it true that humans come from a death world?" Olivia smiled. "Yes, we do. Earth shaped us to be resilient, to endure, to adapt to challenges rather than break under them." "Is that why you won the war?" another student asked. Olivia thought for a moment. We didn't just win a war, she said. We snapped, but we didn't break. We fought back when attacked, but we also showed mercy when we could have chosen vengeance. That's the true legacy of Earth. That's what it means to be human. As her words echoed in the classroom across the galaxy, species that had once feared humans now sought their protection and friendship. The Deathworlders had proven that evolution on a harsh planet created not just physical resilience, but also the strength to forgive.